the intro, and then the intro is going to fade in, and then we're going to start, and I'm going to begin my intro right now. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the AntTech podcast. This is the second episode. There's been a long gap in time between the last episode with Michael from Paragon and this one. We have Lane Fortenberry, owner of Scum Customs. Lane, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to nerd out with me for an hour or so.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Say like what Scum Customs is, what you specialize in teching, or like where you really fit in the airsoft world, and what you want to accomplish.
Gotcha. Scum Customs started out of 3D printing my own parts and just realizing there was a need for them. So I do custom parts for various platforms, primarily the Stoner Mark 63. But we are rapidly moving out to other platforms to expand our who we're reaching and who we're able to improve along the way. And right now I mainly I prioritize HPA work. I've broken it down to a science to do everything I can to get people's guns just working as best as they possibly can and as reliably as they can.
That's what's up. So you're in the IBAT Discord server. I'm also in that server. And for anybody watching this who doesn't know what IBAT is, I don't know what the acronym stands for, actually.
Neither do I. At all.
Funny, I'm going to have Raymond, who's the moderator for it, or maybe one of them. I don't know if there's multiple. I'm going to have him on this podcast eventually, and we'll talk more about that. But IBAT is essentially... Raymond likes to treat it like a union, I guess. I guess it's a airsoft union in the making. But essentially, this Discord server is a place where techs of who are brought on or invited basically get to knowledge transfer everything that they know. And there's just a lot of like tech counseling, R&D work. We have people in the industry in this Discord, so obviously like small businesses like mine and Scum Customs. There's Paragon Armory, Real Deal Airsoft is in it, Airsoft Mutation. So these are all like smaller tech companies, I'd say. The broader airsoft industry doesn't know them like that. But we also have Jeftron on there. I don't know any other bigger companies that are a part of the Discord, but.
I'd say outside of bigger than maybe the handful that I don't remember you listing Paragon. Paragon's in there. I'd say he's definitely gaining in size pretty rapidly here. So he's the number one and one of the only retailers in the U.S. that carries the Somo gear, any of the Somo gear stuff. He's one of the very few people in the U.S. that carries those, and now he's expanding out into some of the TCA, the really nice Repro PRC radios, and he has some of the lowest prices for all those parts in the U.S., even compared to paying for shipping outside of the U.S. to get them here. Yeah.
I mean, I was head over heels about everything that he was doing, when I had him on. But IBAT is basically a place where people like that can come together and continue to grow their business and their knowledge and just their skill, So like where do the really, really good techs go when they have a question? Because like we ask different questions than somebody just getting into teching. They're like, what's the best pack of shims? Or they're like, how do I shim? Here we're like, I'm 3D printing tappet plates, what's the yield strength for this plastic and what print settings are going to get me, yada, yada, yada. And what wire specifically should I be wrapping my motor armature in so that I can get, less amp draw under this specific load and it gets really into the weeds. There's guys there that specialize in building motors. Like they're not just collecting rough empirical data like I built this before and it runs great and I'm sticking with it. No, like they're doing the actual science to see like what what motors can really do. Scum. I'm gonna ask you about the name too in a sec. But Lane, you're deep into the 3D printing thing. everybody's getting their printers to print really fast, really clean, make really strong parts. There's other guys in there that are making pistons. They're starting to make like cylinder heads and other internal parts. So yeah, the whole, in context with this podcast, me and Lane are, for the viewer, me and Lane are in this Discord, so we have some communication quite often, albeit indirectly sometimes, because Discords get very hectic and you're not really following everything. And
it may not be personal communication. There's a lot of technical communication. It's a lot of like, hey, I was using this part to get this performance or this result, or hey, yeah, I've had that issue with that specific gun, and this is what I did. Here's how I fixed that problem. Here's a possible solution. Or hey, you're having these problems. Yeah, this is what I found generally caused those. It's a lot of just technical communication. So, I mean, realistically, we haven't had too much time just on a personal level talking and getting to know each other and, building that community,
Yeah. And the funny thing is I heard of you first through Instagram because I saw Smiggy sharing posts. I saw the parts you were making for stoners, and I'm friends with the guys on Viking Combative Customs. They come to Zulu quite often. They're awesome guys. I want to have them on too. So I know they do stoners, and you're doing stoners, and I was like, hey, what do you guys think of what he's doing? He's making some pretty cool stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, no, he's cool. We like what he's doing. So I heard of you through Instagram and then this Discord and whatnot. But then we had met at AMS Arsenal, and we were just in the chrono range testing our guns, and we didn't know who each other were, but like, you knew about AntTech, I knew about Scum Customs, but we didn't have faces to associate with it, and we were just kind of shooting the shit. You showed me your stoner. I was like, this is a cool custom stoner. Now I don't build stoners. I've never actually built a stoner yet. Like not the Stoner 63. I've done different stoners. So I'm kind of a noob, Like, I know that these companies are making cool parts for it. I've seen Viking stuff. I've seen their rails and barrels and stuff. And you were showing me your stoner, Lane, and I was like, is this like Viking Combative Customs? And you're like, no, this is mine. I'm Scum Customs. I was like, you're Scum Customs? I was like, I'm AntTech Airsoft. He's like, oh wait, yeah, I've heard of AntTech Airsoft. And now we're like shooting each other's guns and stuff, and like geeking out a little bit.
You'll have to throw the picture up, because I actually do get a kick out of the picture, just because both my outfit is so goofy, and it's such an impromptu photo, like at the FPS or the fucking chrono line, just like, dude, we got to get a photo. Let's swap guns. I'll hold your gun. You hold mine. I look so awkward, and it cracks me up. I'm wearing like Crocs with white socks, just pulled up after a 14-hour drive in a fucking Camry with 3 other people and gear in the car. It was horrendous.
It was cool that we met in person that way through chance. And then I reached out to you and I was like, hey, let's do the podcast. We were messaging back and forth and whatnot. And then we did a test call like months ago in what month? August, right? The beginning of August.
It was like 2 months ago.
And so honestly, part of the reason, aside from me having to get a better microphone, part of the reason why I chose to wait longer to actually do the recorded podcast with you was because the first time we spoke, I was not expecting it to be like a 2-hour long conversation. We have very eerily similar lives, outside of Airsoft, and it was cool talking with you. So yeah, like I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, but like,
yeah. So
we have a lot of things in common. Like we can relate on a lot of levels.
It's like, it's like doing not a pie graph, but you have the two circles overlapping, and it's like, instead of you having like a bunch of things in the opposites and maybe just a couple in the middle that overlap between the two, it was like every single life fact was lining up except for our base age. All the same things happening at roughly the same times in the same exact situations, doing the exact same things with the exact same interests, just one of us is older than the other.
Yeah, so you're doing mechanical engineering type stuff. So you're not going for like a bachelor's degree, but you're doing a trade school. You're
Yes.
making machine go burr. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
like I want to make machine go burr. I'm pursuing my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. So it was like, wow, okay. So there's like a very similar interest in career pursuit there. We're both making 3D printed parts for airsoft guns. We both have had a kid quite young, and we're both
Yes.
juggling an airsoft business and school,
And a job.
and a job
life.
and life, and we like living situation wise, we have a very similar thing going on. Like we're young dudes, started a family a little early, and we're just trying to hold it together.
Probably early than we should have.
And, it's
Whether it was our decision or not.
yeah, well, you know what? It's a blessing in disguise. Like
absolutely.
before we started recording, you had your son on your lap, and
Yeah.
that's cool.
It's-
You're not going to get those moments back.
Yeah, it's to go into detail for a second. I have a 2-year-old son, and I'm 21, and I'm working full time. Got this business, got school on top of that. So my week looks like 4 to 5 days in a row of just straight. Wake up at 7, don't get home till midnight. I'm gone basically all day, and then spend whatever time I can on the business and with my family, and
Yeah.
all while doing this with sharing a home with in-laws and trying to just juggle all of life's challenges all at the same time. So
Our significant others, my wife, your girlfriend. Or fiance, okay. They both work in the dental industry. Yeah. So my wife is a operations manager for a dental office, but she started out as an assistant, and then she was doing like front desk stuff. So, and that was only a few years ago. And your girlfriend is.
She's a dental assistant, but she's also done some of the paperwork side of things for her sister, who is an office manager at another dentist office.
Yeah. So there's like. So now we both hear, dental office stories.
Absolutely.
At home, and then we are both sharing with our significant others like autistic airsoft, like, oh, look what I'm making. And
Baby, hold this gun.
They have to pretend to be interested,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And
hey, much respect to them for dealing with both of us. I know it can be a lot. I know it can be crazy. So, and I know it can be like, whoo, just straight over the head, in one ear, out the other. But, oh, baby, that looks so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, man. And you know what? Like, when you were telling me about, it's not even like you were opening up, like flooding like all this info on me. We were just talking, and it just kind of came out, and it was like, oh my god, you like me too. And like, dude, like I totally relate. Just so you know, like there's another dude that's in a very similar position as you, and I relate.
Yeah.
And you got this, man. It's hard, but like. Other people are doing it. Other people have been in worse situations than us and have
100%.
pulled through better. Like it's hard to catch up with life when you have a child before you have an established career or are married. But
Yeah.
so, things have to happen in a certain order for life to kind of go smoothly. And we're both just jumbling to put the cards back in order. And yeah, like much respect to you, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got its ups and downs, but I wouldn't change anything for any amount of money or do over. I mean, yeah, that boy is. There's just nothing else that I think that I've ever felt so connected to, other than him and my family. So it's just like, it's a huge, you hear it from every adult ever. If you're a young guy listening to this, it's just like, yeah, you don't know until you have a kid. You'll never know. You'll think like, I don't feel like I would have kids, or I don't feel like I would be good with kids. It's like a switch, man.
Yeah.
It's like something you didn't even know was there. It's like going through, video game settings, being like, oh shit, I didn't even know this setting was there. Toggle on, changes gameplay entirely. Like, it's wild.
Yeah, man. Do you feel like that puts a certain flame under your ass that drives you to like look at your business and your career and your life and stuff through a broader scope? Like, this isn't this. obviously you're doing airsoft, and there's a reason why we choose to do things like that. Like, we want to enjoy our job, so we make a business out of a hobby we enjoy. But now there's also this necessity to, like, well, this has to really work. We need to, like, I need to make something out of this that can support a family, and when that happens, you have to look at it through a different scope, and it makes you take it a lot more seriously. It's not just like you don't want to be the guy that's still just like having people DM you on Instagram to get stuff. You're like, this should be like an establishment, maybe. This should be like,
oh yeah,
this should be a structured company. I should have limited liability because my family will also have to file bankruptcy if I get sued because my stoner part gets used in a whatever. Like,
yeah, 100%.
It changes the game a little bit, and I would say for the better, Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I don't even know how to really explain it. It's for me, I have a different mentality than maybe some people. I'm very like in the moment. I try not to think too much about the future because I'll get ahead of myself, and I definitely do not think about the past whatsoever. I'm very much so like my frame of thought ends in this exact moment and goes till about 12 hours ahead. And I definitely do have that concept of like, okay, this has got to work. I got people to provide for. I have, responsibilities. I have things that need to be taken care of, and people who need to be taken care of. So there's definitely that aspect, and in that sense, there's definitely some much larger plans for this current business. Maybe not under this name, but there is some definite large plans for this business in the future. And just taking everything one step at a time, doing what I can in the here and now to make that possible. So
yeah, dude, much respect. So I had mentioned before we had met at AMS Arsenal. We were not on the same team. You were on a different team than me, and I don't think we actually encountered each other at all on the field. It was a really big AO.
Nope.
But the story I'm going to get to, because you were there, and you know the individual in question. There was a goofy video circulating around this event. Now, I don't know if anybody watching this has seen any videos from Arsenal, or if you were at Arsenal, or if you may have seen the Zulu 24 podcast on it, but it was a hot weekend, and hydration was like key, and there was plenty of water at our fobs, or at our PBs, but then at the aid stations and stuff, there was some hotly occupied areas where there wasn't as much water, and people were thirsty, and some people were like taking a sip out of a water bottle and throwing it out on the ground, wasting water like heathens. And it was like, and some people were heat casing, I'm always like, drink water. Like, you have to drink water or you're going to die type of thing. Well, there was one individual who's in a video who said that they had vodka in their canteen, and they were drinking vodka, and they were acting all silly and stuff, and people were like, what the fuck? Like, this guy's an idiot, yada, yada, yada. They're like, is this real? Was it actually vodka? Well, you were running with him. He was in your squad. Now,
yeah,
was he actually drinking vodka on the field?
No, he wasn't. And not to give this person any more attention than they probably deserve for this, because it was a poor choice of words and maybe not a super smart decision.
And this guy wasn't a close friend of yours or anything.
Oh God, no. The story was that basically this was a friend of a friend of a friend that got invited to the group to roll with us at this event because he was planning on going as well, and he just ended up rolling with us as a group. And it was just one of those things where we were just stuck in this situation. Someone drove him up there, and he's stuck with them all weekend, and he's staying in their tent all weekend. It's just kind of like, it's one of those things that even though the majority of the group may not know that person, you can't just kind of like outs them because they're stuck with you all weekend. They're driving back. I'm in South Texas. That event was in Indiana. It's about a 14, 15-hour drive. So you're stuck in a car with that person for over half a day, there and back, and you're spending basically the whole time with them. So you have no real choice. But yeah, this was very much so a poor choice of words. And while it was funny to those who could understand the sarcasm, it was an interesting situation to say the least. And if you saw the later clip in that same video, you see him like he's pew 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 shooting at something, and he's just like stumbling along and like knocks into a barricade and like almost like has to like around it. It was just very poor timing that he was just in fact acting like an idiot, and then also happened to say that just beforehand on camera. That I cannot blame this cameraman whatsoever for putting those two clips together and just posting just this 20-second clip. This dude, 90% vodka, watered down so it doesn't burn.
95 proof vodka, watered down so the burn's not that bad.
And then the next clip is just him like shooting and stumbling into a wall. It's so dumb.
Do you have that video?
No, I don't. But for those who want it, you can find it on God, what's his name?
Combat Casual.
Yeah, Combat Casual.
Yeah.
You can find it on Combat Casual's Instagram. It's a dude wearing like Haji clothes with a helmet and like some goggles on. Can't miss it.
Yeah. Yeah, like when we did like the Zulu podcast after that, it was like a 2-part thing. We were just giving our critiques on it. Some had said that it was a bit too harsh, but I know for a fact they did not listen to the whole podcast. We did say good things about the event, but we were being very honest about the things that we didn't like or the things that we wish could have been improved. For me, at the time, I was like, I was kind of annoyed with some of the player base. You know, there was just like I'm getting a bit jaded, you know, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Because there were some people in the tents in the parking lot and stuff near us. They were drinking.
Yeah, I heard that.
There were people shooting like towards our tent. It was an individual shooting towards our tent, and there was just certain like safety concerns that really rustled my jimmies that I was just like, and that wasn't even a complaint on AMS's part. I was just like, what's going on with the world? Like, why?
Yeah, it's just kind of a player base issue more than anything. It wasn't really AMS's fault.
Yeah.
It's not on AMS to like walk through the staging
Yeah.
area where people's tents are and be like, hey guys, y'all following the safety rules? No, it should be like a lot of common sense and, you know, but also to go back to your like heat cache in the water thing, personally, it was a fairly cool weekend compared to where I'm from. In South Texas, I mean, playing in gear in South Texas, you're in 95% humidity, 105, 110% or 110 degrees heat index. So 80 degrees, sunny, little breeze, way less humidity than in Houston. All of us guys from Houston were chilling. We were hearing people talk about how hot it was all day, and it was funny to us because we're like, this feels nice, man. This is a dream.
Yeah, well, I'm not a cold-blooded lizard that lives in a desert or jungle.
Oh no, but 100%. I think some of those.
I was hot, but like I didn't heat cas. I wasn't uncomfortable. I drank water and I'm in shape. And
to be fair, I think some of the heat cases were like people that probably would have heat cased on any other day of the year, anyways. In this situation, it's people that were not prepared. They didn't drink water. They weren't drinking electrolytes. They were maybe pushing themselves too hard at the hottest part of the day and not pacing themselves properly for their fitness level, and obviously not to throw any shade at anyone that is heat cas. It's terrible. You don't want any players to heat cas. It's a terrible situation. You got to pause game. You got to get them off the field. You got to get them hydrated. And in very terrible situations, you got to call EMS. You got to get them out there so they can get rehydrated immediately. So it can be a really bad situation. So yeah, people definitely just need to be drinking their water, maybe hitting the cardio a little bit more. It's better for us in general to just be hitting the cardio for airsoft or just for your daily life.
Yeah, dude.
Just
Like some of the rage I have about heat casing is like kind of a weird way of caring about other people. Like
Oh, absolutely.
if you see somebody about to walk into a train, you're like, get the fuck out, get away from the fuck. You're gonna push them.
Yeah.
You'll if you have to hurt them to get them to not get hit by a train, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would urge somebody, if they're not drinking water and they're making stupid decisions, I'm just like, dude, you're gonna fucking heat cas. Like it's dumb. It's just dumb.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Even us from Texas, we were sweating. We were sweating a lot, but
yeah,
there's a difference, and for a lot of people who aren't in the South where it's high humidity, when you sweat in the humidity, it doesn't make you cooler. You just feel soaking wet and hot. It does not change your body temperature at all. You just feel gross. Whereas up there with lower humidity, once you started sweating and like your clothes started getting a little wet and soaked through, man, that breeze and that low humidity, it just felt cool when that breeze would hit you. It just so nice. So that was a huge privilege to get to play in some weather like that, because we rarely get that. Because even in the winter down here in Texas, you're still looking at 80-90% humidity in the winter, even in central and south Texas. So even the winters can be, hey, yeah, it's only 40 degrees, but it's pretty windy because Texas is mainly flat for the most part, and it's high humidity. So you got wind chill and moisture chill hitting you on top of it maybe only being 40 degrees. So
yeah, like
it feels a lot more extreme down here for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and the physical activity too was a lot. So like my
100%.
my assistant tech who occupies that bench, Ryan, he was a Marine, and he's an EMT now. He was working towards being an EMT at the time of the event. I watched him at one point pick up a water bottle on the ground that somebody had already drank it out of a little bit, and it was sitting in the sun, so it was warm, like it was hot. It was hot water. I watched him pick it up and start drinking it, just out of pure, he just understood that he needed to do it.
Yeah, I just need water.
And he didn't like it.
Just pray to God this dude doesn't have AIDS or something,
I saw his face when he drank it, and like he wasn't doing it for attention. He wasn't like exaggerating so everybody could see, oh, this is all, like, no, he just,
oh, I'm badass.
He just did what he knew he had to do, and he didn't like it. And it was just like, damn. So like my cargo pockets were filled with water, and I didn't care about the weight. I was like,
my dump pouch had 2 water bottles in it that I picked up at some of those aid stations. Yeah. Felt that 100%.
So I want to get back into the teching. What gun were you running? Because you had showed me your stoner, and then you had showed me this shotgun contraption. Go whichever one you want to talk about first.
So sadly, my stoner is actually in pieces right now, just for various reasons. Teching reasons, being busy with other people's guns, and I haven't just gotten back around to reassembling my own. I was running my stoner Mark 63. Once again, you can go to Combat Casual. He did a little rundown of my kit at that event. It's also on my page. I'm a collaborator on that post, so you can go to my Instagram and find that, Scum Customs LLC on Instagram. And I kind of walked through the whole thing, but it was a max converted, chopped, stock converted. I mean, everything on this gun's been changed except for the receiver and the gearbox. And even then, all the gearbox internals have all been swapped out for an F2. So, that gun's always a blast. Trying to move away a little bit from the LMGs, get pretty pricey on the BBs. So as fun as they are, and as fun as it is to just know that I can peek a corner and lay down hate for my entire squad and they can move and not have to worry about getting shot at.
Yeah.
Is nice. At the same time, I'm starting to be like, okay, I'm going through 20, 30,000 rounds at an event. This is getting expensive.
Yeah.
I don't know that I like spending this much money on ammo. Not that I can't. It hurts.
And saw gunners that can't afford the BBs are the worst saw gunners because they're
absolutely.
They're not covering.
They're not hitting anything.
They're not suppressing.
Yeah, they're
not-
shooting 1.8 joules, but they're using twos, and they're just going all over the place. They're
Either
not
that,
accurate whatsoever.
Either that, or they have the right BB weight, but they're just choosing not to shoot because they're thinking
Yeah.
about conserving ammo.
Yeah, no.
You
no,
know?
I dump ammo, for sure. I am trigger happy. I see someone, even if I don't know if I can hit you, I'm giving you a couple bursts, and I'm going to fucking arc it and see if I can walk it into you. But after a few bursts, after I've gone through 40, 50 rounds on you, if I'm not hitting you, just move on, next target.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the shotgun, this was Le Shotgun.
And what's the
fully-
base?
So it's fully 3D printed. The entire thing's 3D printed. The only thing that isn't 3D printed on it is some of the internals, how it works, the grip.
I didn't realize that when I held
about
it
it.
and shot it. I didn't realize
that's about
that.
it.
I didn't realize the whole thing was 3D printed when
Yeah,
when I shot it.
Yeah, so it's an HPA shotgun.
I love the war crime sticker, by the way.
So yeah, that was actually added to it when I wasn't looking one day. It was sitting on the bench, like at local field, and my buddy walked up and had the war crime stickers and just like, and walked away. I didn't know who put it on there until, he told me later, oh yeah, I put the sticker on there.
Okay,
it was
so-
like a couple days later.
So I mean, that is totally a war crime. That is a war crime. So it's fully 3D printed. And do you have an engine in there, an HPA engine? What engine is that?
Yeah, so this is actually, it's a jack with a MTW max hop unit. It's running on a single barrel. It's using it can use both IGL, or it has a Polar Star UGS CO2 system built in under the barrel.
That is genius.
So, it was a lot of fun to run. It was tuned specifically to shoot 3-round burst at like 48 or 50 RPS.
Yeah.
And it did it. It did it, and it shot insanely well for that.
So for the viewer, basically it's a single barrel, but what he did was make the RPS so high instead of 2 3-round burst, so that it was almost as if like one trigger pull, you're getting a tri-shot out of it.
Yeah.
And it was, when I shot it at AMS, I was really impressed with it. The range was insane, and it's really cool. So, okay, are the files for that available?
No.
Is that something that you will ever offer?
So, I may, because it's a lot of 3D printing, and quite honestly, I do not feel like selling these, because if they do sell, they're going to take months to build. I mean, one alone is like, it's like 20 or 30 hours of printing in parts. Not to mention just having to build them out for customers. There's a lot of DIY. The airline solutions DIY, especially to go from, like, for those who can see the video, I mean, there's a line in here that has to go around the mag and then around to the back of the engine, avoid the trigger mechanics, and curve up without kinking to feed the engine for if you're running CO2.
And do you have a push safety on the trigger guard there?
So yeah, it does work like a standard shotgun safety.
And
so
you did that. You designed that.
Yeah.
That is incredible, man.
It just moves back and forth. There's a little set screw in the rear behind the trigger when you take the trigger off, or not the trigger, the grip,
and
that just holds that little pin in.
That spring-loaded button there in the trigger guard, that's the mag release.
Yes, so that is how you release the mags from the gun. And the mags are also 3D printed, but with EPM 1S, the short EPM ones, it has the shell of it. So just like the internals, on the inside, with Maple Leaf Armory super feed springs to let them feed insanely fast. So they only hold like 120 rounds, so you're maybe getting 40 shots a mag. And you're only getting maybe 60 shots out of a single 12 gram cartridge of CO2.
It's a shotgun.
But yeah, for a sidearm, which is what I was carrying it for at Arsenal, was I just wanted a more capable indoors gun for when I absolutely cannot use the LMG. Well within my MED or inside of a building, I just need something that's going to put rounds out faster and more reliably and at a higher volume than, say, a gas pistol.
And how many fields honor the 3-round burst as a tri-shot? How many fields like accept that?
So my local outdoor field, Tanks Paintball, who does Airsoft, they do allow it. The general rule is if someone complains, then I have to put it away. But generally, when ran on HPA or CO2, with how fast the 3-round burst is with the jack, the next two drop in power as you go down. So that also facilitates kind of the spread a little bit because you get a little different variance between the hop and just generally the speed and path that the BBs take. But
is that due to the refresh rate of the engine?
I believe it's actually the regulators at 50 RPS with how short the inner barrel is in this. To even get a joule, I'm at somewhere like 110 psi just on really low DP. So it's actually not the engine. It's
the UGS regulator.
It's the regulators. So
Okay.
even on a mini Redline Mini SFR, still does it on the built-in Polar reg, which is basically a Polar, I believe it's their micro MRS, which is what's built into the front of this. It's just a slightly different body of it.
Yeah.
Neither of them can properly keep up with this engine at that fast.
So I've noticed with the Kythera builds and the gas stocks, when I use a UGS or CGS, if you really try to speed soft the trigger, you will see that FPS decrease due to the refresh rate. I assume that was attributed to me putting the slower metering screw in there because the engine was resetting slower.
Absolutely not.
But that's the refresh rate of the regulator.
And also, you may not have noticed it on your Kythera because there's no way the Kythera is going through as much gas as this is per shot with the 12 grams.
For sure.
Or even the 33 grams. You can actually outrun the CO2 on this. You can get to the point that you basically back up the regulator with liquid CO2 because the CO2 is not converting to gas because they have a little expansion chamber on the inside here to let it convert to gas before it hits the regulator because you obviously don't want liquid CO2 inside the gun. I have had this gun go into full auto randomly spurting liquid CO2 because I was spamming the trigger too fast just testing it just to see how fast it could keep up. Shut up, Tracer.
But you can go in your FCU and just put a...
So actually the semi-lock does not work. The semi rate of fire does not count in the full auto position. So you cannot add a electronic delay to the Polar FCUs between full auto shots or burst shots.
But what about in between bursts?
Yeah, you can't.
Wow.
It only works for the semi-auto position.
What about a Gorilla FCU?
I honestly did not test the Gorilla in this. The Gorilla is usually in my Stoner. It does have a shot delay, but I'm not sure if it works the same where it only works for the semi position and not your full selector position, because that's how the Polar works. Is it when you go into full, it just totally negates that setting, doesn't even consider it.
Yeah.
But in semi, that's where it follows that setting. And so that's why in full auto, which is technically the position this is in when you're shooting through on burst, it's in the full auto selector position. It does not maintain that trigger pull delay where you would, some fields require it for DMRs. You got to have a half-second delay on the trigger. You can't spam it, things like that. Can't do it on this. So I was just playing with gentleman's rules. I was, one bursting people, and of course I was using tracer BBs with a tracer unit on it. So I was just giving people what they needed, which was generally only one trigger pull.
What they needed was water.
They need some of that dude's vodka.
They drank the liquid CO2 out of desperation.
Absolutely. So I got a couple kills with it. It was fun. I haven't used it much since because it's honestly so temperamental to run because it is fully 3D printed, especially after Arsenal. It was ran on a weapon catch system that I developed. So it was hanging on the outside of my carrier the entire event. And I've noticed now, I get back after being at that event, everything on it's just a little loose. Everything's just it's got a little bit more play in it than it had when I left.
And what filament is that? Is that PLA Plus?
Yeah, so this is PLA Plus, and typically I don't have issues with it. But when something is entirely 3D printed, all it takes is a little bit of shrinkage or warping in each part to create a lot of play.
Yeah.
Like this grip that I printed for it was like really stiff on the gun originally. Now it like I can I can twist it with my hand.
Yeah.
It's no longer tight on the CGS tube, which is what it grabs onto. So, um, yeah, haven't used it too much because of that. Otherwise, it works great. You got to carry it on the outside of your carrier. Um, and
Yeah.
when running a lot, it does kind of get in the way. But
A lot of people who don't use any 3D printed parts or guns, or they don't 3D print at all, they're very skeptical about parts that are 3D printed with an FDM printer because they're like, it's just plastic. Oh, it's going to melt. And maybe they're associating that with some past experience with something 3D printed they've seen. Typically, like, I feel like every airsoft field has some people that show up and be like, hey, I 3D print parts. Or, you go on Hop Up and there's a bunch of people that are just 3D printing things. And I've seen a lot of janky 3D prints. People just get an Ender 3 and it's not really set up well and they don't get their settings right. They're just printing whatever at like 0.3 layer height,
yeah, noticeable layers. Yeah, it's
yeah. But
it's common.
But you're using PLA Plus, and your prints are really clean. Like I'm running PET G for my feed blocks. And people say things about PET G. If you're making an impact part that's taking stress, like don't use PET G. But I like PET G for feeding. But like I get pretty clean prints with my feed blocks, and I get people who look at it, who do 3D printing. So like the guys at Amped and the guys at Airsoft Junkies, they've seen it and they're like, this is like really good quality for an FDM printer, and it's all one piece. And like, but your parts too. Your parts are really clean. Your parts are. I have a 3D printed box mag here. You might find it interesting. I can get it out. So this one is going on my buddy's PKM, but this is a little mini like nutsack type mag for a PKM.
Oh, I know whose that is.
Kiwi, right?
Yep. Hmm.
You know him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a neat little product. I mean, this thing's fully 3D printed, and I would assume that he printed this with PLA Plus. Looking at it, but it's a neat product, and I mean, I'm not worried about it working. I don't know, like 3D printers are coming a long way, and there are some people that just 3D print like flash hiders or like dinky little grips, and they sell them, and people are like, why would I get a 3D printed grip when I can just buy a grip? And like, I understand that sentiment, but like, this is a nutsack box mag for a PKM, and it works. Like, you're doing box mags for stoners, and they work. Bull Gear does 3D printed box mags, and they work. The sky's the limit with it. And yeah. Do you have any cool 3D printed stuff you want to show? Yeah. Is that the one with the... Okay, yeah. Yeah, so
we can't say too much about that one yet.
I still don't know which of the things you're making I can talk about. Can I talk about
I'll put my finger over my mouth or I'll cut you off very abruptly if you start going on about something that you can't speak about.
So I want to talk about some of your 3D printed things that you're developing, if you're willing to talk about it at all. And this is because on the topic of what can be 3D printed, how far can you take 3D printing in airsoft? Gas blowback parts.
Yeah, so I didn't actually I didn't publicly post this part, but I can absolutely show it off a little bit. So
because you sent me the video, and I told my buddy who's a gas gun guru about it. And he's like, there's no way. Like, 3D printed, and can I say what it is?
Yeah, absolutely, you can.
So you 3D printed a bolt housing, or a bolt for a MWS?
Yeah.
Okay, so the bolt in a GBB takes probably the most stress out of all the parts in the GBB, and it probably undergoes the most friction, and it has low temperatures, like pressurized gas going on inside of it, and it has small parts that have to reciprocate back and forth, like the nozzle and everything. It has to do it smoothly, so the dimensions have to be accurate. There's heat on the outside from friction, there's cold on the inside from the gas, and it's constantly wearing. So you made a bolt for the MWS that works. Does it still work outside of the video you sent?
Yes and no. So there's a couple things that I would also need to do to the gun to get it to work properly, because it is insanely light. It's about, I believe it's like 60 grams or something like that, with nozzle, with springs, with everything assembled, ready to drop in the gun. It's about 60 grams. So I'll refocus my camera so that way people can actually see this. And of course, after touching it, I now have like lubricant all over my hands, and it's hard to turn the little dial. So Scum Customs Hyper Light. This is version, what is this, 6? Yeah, version 6 MWS bolt. So this bolt actually ran, and it was cycling insanely fast for everything else on the gun being stock. Jesus Christ, bear with me, camera.
I'm going to need you to send me the video of it, because I'm going to put the video of it cycling like on the
absolutely.
screen.
Yeah, I will.
Because I saw that and I was just like, there's no way. Like, I can see it cycling for a few rounds. Obviously, it's still not, like, it's not doing that now. But what went wrong?
Oh, it'll still work. Nothing went wrong.
Okay.
It's just the issue of the nozzle spring wasn't strong enough. The buffer spring was too strong. And the buffer weight was too heavy for it. So it would cycle, it would run. But once the mag started getting low on gas, it had a tendency to not cycle and then dump all the gas down the barrel.
Yeah.
Because what would happen was the gas pressure from the mag was not enough to force this insanely light bolt back against a very strong spring with a fairly heavy buffer weight, and the nozzle spring was not strong enough to release from the bucking in the hop-up unit to actually cycle another round. So it would full auto dump through about 20 rounds out of the mag, and then once you hit about that 22 point, it would just fucking...
And if that bolt were able to go back all the way, the nozzle would release. Right? If the
yes
bolt...
and no. Yes and no.
Okay.
So my nozzle seal on this gun is actually insanely good. So that's probably part of the issue.
Okay.
Because even with the real bolt, if I don't rack the slide back, I can pull the slide almost all the way back until the nozzle hits the forwardmost point inside the bolt and then releases.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's
so
probably a little overstuck.
So you can't attribute that to the 3D printed bolt itself.
Oh, God, no.
That was just
No,
a separate thing going on.
Yes,
But-
and it would just, I don't feel like putting the money in and waiting for other parts to come in to work on this gun. That's basically just a fun gun for me. It's not like a primary.
I don't know, dude. Yo, so hear me out. My friend Jordan, he got a bufferless system for his GHK, and basically he wanted to put a folding stock on it, but he had to have a special bolt. This bolt weighed much less, and this gun was so much more gas efficient with this bolt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just for the goal of gas efficiency, that seems like something you should continue to pursue, because you can also 3D print a buffer, and then you could work out your whole nozzle bucking.
Yeah, it was mainly the spring things, and also a lot of just MWS parts being out of stock for the most part in the US at the moment.
Yeah.
They will be back in stock, and they're still sold in the US. Everything that I was needing was out of stock. So it's just getting put on the back burner until I feel like picking it up again. But yeah, I mean, it probably went through about 200 rounds in testing in the gun, locked back consistently, and short-stroked, might I add. Short-stroked, locking back consistently, but that's also partially due to my design. I have the T8 MWS, and how it works is it doesn't actually use the Z plate on the bottom in the gearbox to lock the bolt back near the rear, What it does is it actually has a fairly similar to a real steel bolt catch, where it's a plate underneath the bolt that gets pushed up by the follower in the gun,
Right.
that holds the front of the bolt kind of at the bottom. And so this little cutout here was actually to account for that. So it allowed the bolt to not have to go nearly as far back to lock reliably.
And can you rotate the bolt so that whoever's watching this can see, like, rotate it? Like, look at how thin that plastic is, you know? And that was running, and that's with PLA Plus. Yeah.
So yeah, you can't break it with your bare hands. And you could probably snap these tabs off at the front if you put enough leverage, but in terms of like the overall strength of the entire bolt, you can put way more external force than this will ever receive in your gun in those directions on this thing, in the weakest directions, which would be at the layers, at these thin points. Your gun is never going to bend your bolt there. So it's insanely strong, and that's partially due to the design, the material, and also printer and settings capabilities that I've fine-tuned over a couple of years.
And for anybody watching this who might be a 3D printer nerd, what printer do you use? What's your printer setup?
I currently have a Bamboo Labs P1S, and I'm using these Wham Bam PEX flexible build plates. If you have any 3D printer, go buy you one of these.
What is it called?
They're Wham Bam PEX flexible build systems. These are similar to a PEI sheet, but it's with a slightly different material that doesn't overstick or wear down nearly as fast. So if you've used PEI sheets and tried printing things like TPU or PETG, you might have had problems with your part actually peeling the PEI coating off your print bed. These will not do it. I've been using this for about a month now. I clean it with alcohol wipes every 4 to 5 prints. Don't touch it with your fingers, and you won't have to clean it nearly as much.
And is that just like stainless steel? Just like
it's spring steel, yeah.
Spring steel.
And it gives quite literally a mirror finish on these parts on the bottom layer.
That is fantastic. That is so cool.
So perfectly smooth. These are Scum Customs gooseneck contour mounts for arc rails. So these are basically just allow your contour to sit a little higher on your helmet, out of the way of your arc rail, so it makes it actually sit lower profile. Let me fix my goddamn camera. God damn it. Wish I had an autofocus camera, because that is obnoxious. Anyways, these mount into your arc rails. They generally have a set screw in that hole, but this is a blank part ready to get assembled and shipped out. But it basically just slides into an arc rail on a helmet, and then you lock it in, and then you slide your contour on, and it sits your contour above the arc rail at the proper angle to get good footage, and it pulls it closer to the helmet because it's not mounted onto the arc rail with some of the existing mounts that do exist for the arc rails. And this is a hell of a lot stronger than a Velcro solution to mount any camera to your helmet. So I would still det cord the camera to my helmet in case this snaps in whatever reason or whatever situation. But ultimately, this part, it doesn't even flex. I can't even get it to flex in my hands, much less snap. So you would really have to take a tumble to break that off.
So you understand how to print your parts. You're not just a guy who got the cheapest printer you could buy, and you realize you can make some money printing stuff. Like you're using your printer as a tool to legitimately manufacture some engineered parts. So,
and I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Been there, done that. Been in that position. Been using the $100 Ender off the $100 discount that you can get from Micro Center. Like,
yeah.
Been there, done that. So, as I was saying, Bamboo Labs P1S is what I currently have. Thank you to everyone who has supported me as a business. That is what has allowed me to get such a nice printer that can print things like this in 30 minutes. Damn near completely solid at 0.15 millimeter layer height, to the point where you got to look really close at this thing to see the layers. You got to bring it real close to your face and really inspect it to see your layers. And that's all thanks to my customers. But before that, I still have it. I just don't use it nearly as much. It's on my desk next to me. I had a Prusa Research. It's a great printer. but it's a little outdated at this point. It was still fairly quick for what it was, but
Yeah.
I mean that the Bamboo Labs printers just beat everything. At the price range and in performance, they blow everyone out of the market.
Bamboo Labs. So if I get a third printer, I'm
Oh,
probably,
100%.
I might-
100%.
I
They're
might
actually
just-
on sale right now, I'm pretty sure.
I might just copy your setup when I buy another printer because I'm running two Prusa Mark III S Pluses. I got one for free by accident. On
This would blow both of them out of the water.
Yeah.
Both in speed, reliability, and quality.
So it's Bamboo
And-
Labs.
And ease of use. Oh my god, dude. I know you've probably dealt with the whole like unplug USB, plug it into the computer, save file, extract USB, unplug USB, plug it into the printer, go onto the printer, select the file, press go, wait for it to do all the heating stuff, make sure your bed's leveled, make sure it starts properly before you walk away.
Yeah.
I don't even have to worry about any of that bullshit with this P1. Dude, I press go. I press send file, and it just automatically starts in the slicer settings. So I'll have Bamboo Labs on my computer open, slice the part, adjust whatever settings need to be adjusted, see the time. All right, cool, this part's going to be an hour and a half. Look at my printer, make sure the print bed's clean. Send files, it automatically starts. Camera has a built-in webcam that can be accessed on your phone or your computer from anywhere as long as that printer is on your internet and you are logged in on the app on your phone. I can see a live feed on that webcam at any time. I can adjust temperatures. I can adjust speed settings. I can adjust Z offset. I can, if the printer's not doing anything, but I don't want to use the little screen, I can use my phone to like, hey, I need to work on this thing here. I need to clean the nozzle, or I got to do whatever, right? I can move the print bed and the print head manually. I can make it manually extrude material when the hot end is warm to make sure that there's no clogs, or if I'm trying to clear a clog, I can sit there and manually press it to keep extruding so I can see if it's clearing the clog or not. I mean, there's just so many quality of life improvements. This thing is over engineered as fuck.
How much is that printer?
It's about $800 when I bought it.
That is
After
so
tax
worth
and
it.
shipping.
Did you have to
After
assemble
tax
it?
and shipping. Nope. You
Really?
plug in some wires, you screw on the spool holder, you unscrew the print bed from the lockdown points that they include for shipping. So it has lockdown points in the printer that like the print bed is locked to with screws to keep it from moving or getting out of whack in shipping. Their shipping is insane. It's like 4-day shipping in the US during all weekdays. It comes so well packaged. I mean,
You just sold me on that printer. Everything,
Yeah.
dude. Just the fact that you can monitor it through your phone and do all that stuff through your phone is fantastic. Because like
tell you,
when I'm working on guns and I'm printing stuff simultaneously, I'm constantly running back and forth, going to my computer, you know, letting it. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna let it heat up. It's warming up. Okay, I'm gonna go work on the gun. I'm like timing myself so it doesn't shut off because of the heat timer. You know. That sounds fantastical.
So, just as an example for all the viewers of this, I will do this right now. I will start a part on the printer right now as we're going. And for example, I'll show you all this part. I will print one of these right now on this printer in full quality as to what you see on this exact one here. No different quality. So I'll just get this started. It's super simple because all I have to do is do that.
So describe what you're doing right now.
So right now what I'm actually doing is I'm pulling the part into the software. I'm checking that the part is orientated properly to the bed that I can see in the software. And then I'm just double checking that all my settings look good. I'm on the right profiles and I'm on the right print beds and all that good stuff. There's no supports on this part, so I don't have to worry about toggling any supports or manually adding any. So now all I have to do is press slice plate. Says it's going to be 32 minutes and 15 seconds. And that does actually account for the 5 minutes of prepare time of it heating up, purging old filament out of the nozzle, so you have fresh filament in the nozzle, and bed leveling and vibration testing. So you may hear it in the background doing some of this warm-up stuff. So I'm now going to do print plate, send, and as soon as this hits 100%, the printer will kick on and start doing all of its all of its pre-print protocol to just make sure everything's in line.
That's awesome. So by the end of this discussion, you're going to have a printed part.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That is so awesome. That is incredible.
So there we go, 100%. And it's automatically going to jump to the part page. I just saw the light kick on in the printer. And then here in just a second, as soon as it finishes, it's sent through the software. Oh, there it goes. Bed's moving. So it is now starting the calibration sequence. All right. Anyways, I will let y'all know when that finishes.
All right. So moving on from the GBB bolt, I'm going to throw another keyword out there. You give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, I guess, if it's kosher to talk about. MP. All right. Yeah, MP9.
Yeah, we're good to go.
All right. Yeah, let's do it. Because I don't want to spill all your secret projects out. This blew my mind. There's so many things that you have going on here, and things that you discovered while building this that just blow my mind. So I guess while you're getting that set up, so you took an MP9 from, you took the body of a gas blowback MP9, and you HPA tapped. It's still a GBB. It's HPA tapped. No, you have a Polar Star engine in it. Okay, you have a Polar Star engine in it. It's running KWA QRF Mod 3 mags because they're like the same exact external dimensions as the gas blowback MP9 mag. You put a max op in it. Yeah. And then you also told me that the AEP MP9s are very similar to the gas blowback MP9s, and there might be a way to
think simpler. They are damn near identical dimensionally. They're actually simpler internally. There is less molding internally in the LPAEG ones, which you can get at like Academy for $40.
Yeah.
Or at your local airsoft store. I guarantee you has like an aisle of like the super shitty Walmart Springers just hanging around for the kids who, you know, come in, don't have the money to buy like real guns.
So the conversions that we've been doing to the TM MP7s, putting HPA engines in them, all that stuff. Now there's a way to like clear cut do that to the MP9, and you can get the cheapest, shittiest MP9 that's available anywhere. And then the mags are just readily available KWA mags. And now you have this HPA engine that arguably, if you put like an F2 in there, it's going to perform way better than the TM MP7s that have jacks in them. And you'll have better mags for sure. So that's that. Now that one's the GBB.
Yes. So this is the GBB model.
That is insane. Is there another location where you can route the line? Can you route the line out the bottom?
So the kit is routed for both. The kit has holes cut into it and routing path for both. You can go out the rear, you can go out the bottom.
So this is a kit. You already made a kit for it.
Yes, it's just not released yet.
Gotcha. And this kit is what does it include?
So this kit, upon release, will include absolutely everything needed to get this gun running, minus the donor gun to put it in, the HPA engine, and your preferred barrel setup, and the mags. That's it.
But it can take any M4 hop up.
No. So it is. So I say preferred in terms of like your barrel length, company, hop up, bucking. The hop up itself has to be a max MTW hop up.
Okay.
But outside of that, any engine that will fit in the kit, which it's got an F2 in it right now, so use your imagination, and anything that can work on standard Polar Star FCUs. So it will actually come with its own wiring harness, its own custom trigger board, which I can't talk too much about yet because it's being done in partnership with another company, but its own trigger board, its own custom wiring harness, ready to go for both single and dual solenoids. All you need is the engine, the FCU, the barrel setup with the max MTW hop, the mags, and the donor gun. So overall, it's only like 4 things. You only really need a brand new engine, the max MTW hop up, and whatever barrel you have laying around and hop setup you might have around that you want to put in it. Buy your mags for it and have the gun.
And
That's all you need.
And how much do you think this kit's going to cost when it's done and it's released?
So right now it's looking in the ballpark of $375 to $225, and at this moment it's basically entirely dependent on the electronics cost.
Right.
I'm not making money on those electronics. My producer is the company that is producing those electronics. They are making money, but I'm selling those electronics to y'all with the kit at cost, with the benefit that you do not have to do any DIY wiring, soldering, plugs, switches.
Yeah.
None of it.
And when you factor that in with a $40 base gun, if you do the AEP, you're pretty. It's just another option it's in the same price tier as any other Polar Star F2 build, or Polar Star Jack build. Like, you're spending about the same for a Gucci base build, except instead of buying like a VFC M4 that's around $375 or whatever, you're getting this kit and a $40 donor. Mags are AEG mags. And all the other internals are the same things you would buy for a Gucci build. Engine, hop-up, barrel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the whole point of this kit. And no hate to anyone who likes the MP7 or has built their own HPA MP7 or produces or has designed HPA MP7 parts. But quite frankly, no one has done a great job at specifically designing HPA engines to fit right and work right in these guns. No one has done it. I took all of my knowledge with building custom HPA shotgun, throwing an HPA engine into guns that it does not belong in, throwing max hop-ups into guns that they do not belong in. I've taken all of that knowledge that I've gained through dimensions and the tolerances and how the hop-up and the nozzle and the engine and everything needs to line up, and with some of the techniques that I've used in other platforms to actually get these guns to feed, because there's quite an interesting note to make about this gun, that the mag doesn't actually line up with the hop-up at all, but it feeds at 35 RPS, no problem. So let people do their imagination. I don't really want to show off too much of the internals. I can take the top off and show y'all just the electronic space and the internals a little bit that way, but I can't show too much about the actual kit and how it works. But yeah, I mean, you got the point pretty down pat there. This gun is going to replace the MP7 due to availability, cost to performance, ease of install, and ease of maintenance. It's just blowing all other MP7 kits and builds out of the water at that point with this kit. And ultimately, you get a smaller package than the HPA MP7s. The MP7s, I've handled them, I've worked on them. They are not as small as this. The mags suck. The mags are slightly proprietary.
That is true.
They don't fit in standard SMG mag pouches. They're a pain in the ass to get. They're a pain in the ass to get working reliably. A lot of them need replacement followers, replacement springs. They're expensive. These mags are OEM'd by PTS, sold by KWA for a KWA gun. They hold 80 rounds in a mag, which is more than the AEG MP7 mags, and you can get them for $15, and they're in stock in the US in 3-packs or individually. You can get them in a 3-pack for $55 on Amped. Shout out to my sponsors, Amped. Amazing guys.
I like the guys at Amp too.
They're great.
Tom or Wes, if you're watching this, this is for you guys. That's for you guys.
Facts.
We love Amp. We love Amp.
But ultimately, if you don't have a KWA MP9 on hand, DM me. I may or may not have the parts list of numbers that you can email KWA directly about to order directly for them for less than $200.
Oh, to get the actual
yes,
the GBB
just to get what you need. Just to get what you need.
I'm gonna touch my assistant tech's gun really quick. I hope he won't get upset. But he has a KWA MP9 right here, and this one he built out to be gas. He's keeping it a GBB, but I mean these externals are much better than the cheaper AEP MP9. Like it's a nice solid injection molded polymer.
For sure.
If I'm just trying to imagine if I had one of these as an HPA, like, I don't know, I'd have a lot of fun. I'd have a lot of fun with it. Really cool. And are you going to work on making any of the suppressor kits for it as well?
Yeah, so I'll take the suppressor off and I'll talk about it a little bit.
Because you did send me a picture of that. There's some carbon fiber there going on there.
So yeah, this suppressor was designed and 3D printed on the base caps, but it was designed completely around the existing B&T TMP9, the civilian suppressor.
And you live in Texas, so there's a high. So you probably were able to get your hands on one and touch one and have fun with it. Unlike me, who's a subservient in communist New York.
So actually, no. I wish that'd be really sweet. But getting your hands on what is basically 2 Form 4s in one package that is also like $4,000 just for the gun, not exactly easy. It's hard to find. So
you still have to do a Form 4 in Texas?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you still have to follow all laws and regulations, assuming that you are a completely law-abiding citizen, which we all are here.
So you need a tax stamp still in Texas?
To even buy the gun, yeah, you would need a tax stamp because it's an SBR, because it has a stock.
I thought,
unless you put a brace on it.
I thought in Texas now you could just buy a can.
Only if it is Texas made, and you have to get permission from the governor of Texas to produce anything along those lines. You have to get written permission from the governor of Texas. So it is very difficult, and it also does not stop any federal prosecution for that item, to my knowledge. I could be wrong, don't quote me on this, I'm not an expert in that stuff, but to my knowledge, that's kind of the whole situation regarding that.
So Texas is like, look, we're not going to send our law enforcement to go and turn you into the feds, right?
Yeah, we're not. And y'all can make them and y'all can sell them legally,
right.
but
if
we can't say anything about the feds.
If there's alphabet boys in your town and they see that you have a suppressor,
yep,
right,
they probably are not going to care whether or not it was made in Texas or made in the Philippines.
Yeah,
quite frankly. But ultimately, the suppressor, it's using carbon fiber tubing, which greatly increases the strength and the I don't know if this is a word, the concentricity, how concentric the holes are in this, because you're actually using a solid carbon fiber tube instead of the entire thing being 3D printed, which can add some play into whether or not the 2 holes are actually properly aligned.
Yeah.
So this is basically just 2 butt caps that have set screws that lock into the carbon fiber tube to give you one solid suppressor. And as I said, it was modeled after the B&T suppressor. It's not a perfect copy. I did as best I could, but I also took some liberties in making it a little wider and chunkier than the actual B&T suppressor is, simply for foam filling purposes, to give you just a whole fuck ton of volume in this thing. Because I knew I was also going to have to cover an inner barrel and foam fill it. So the skinnier it is, the less the foam behind the barrel is going to do anyways. So,
quick question, if you run the inner barrel just to the end of the muzzle threads, how long of a barrel is that?
I guess this is a good segue to actually take the top off the gun.
All right, yeah.
I actually do not know off the top of my head. I do know that this is a 230 mil inner barrel. So your hop up is right about there. That's the wheel of the hop up. So your feed tube is probably about there. End of your barrel is probably right at the edge of my fingertip. I can't measure it with my calipers because this is longer than my calipers.
Yeah, because if you're an MP9
I would say it's right around 9 inches, and then I would say if you were going to the thread, probably fit about a 5-inch inner.
That's pretty short. Hold on. Let me pull out my calipers.
Yeah.
5 inches.
5 inches should be. See, it should be like 100 something mil. 130, 120 mil.
That's not that bad. That's kind of like a Scorpion Evo.
It's longer than what's in some of the ARPs.
Yeah, honestly, that's not that bad. Make it a wide bore.
I think I have one.
605 it, tune your dwell, run really heavy BBs. You'll probably be all right.
I don't know what this is, but that would definitely fit in it.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you're a
that would be right to the threads.
Yeah, because
holding the hop.
I'm a guy that likes to run all my barrels through the threads and then just tune the gearbox or engine to that barrel length, just so that I have the option to just not run a can if I wanted to, or whatever.
So yes,
Yeah.
but this gun around here where I'm at, there's no benefit to running an SMG.
Yeah.
Other than the size, there is no benefit to it. I do not get to run full auto. There's no like field rules where I get to run 1 joule or lower and I can full auto.
Yeah.
Every field I go to is 1.5 joules or lower, semi-auto only, 0 MED. Anything over that, you have an MED. LMGs are the only ones allowed full auto, so on and so forth. Very basic like AMS style rules.
Have you heard of Have you heard of Techstar Airsoft?
Yes, I have.
Have
They're
you
actually
played there?
only like 10 minutes away from me. Yes.
Do they allow
Sadly.
full auto? Because I could have sworn on Instagram I saw something.
Can't say that there's never been full auto in that field, but I do not know if they allow it.
So I actually
I'll say that much.
So I guess one of the guys that works there, maybe he's one of the owners or one of the partners. He has a YouTube channel that's really old, and I used to watch his videos.
He
when I
no
first got
longer
into
works there.
He doesn't?
No, he was the manager, and the owners, I believe, fired him.
Wow.
Because there was a whole public video where he cried like a baby on it.
Oh, wow.
In front of the camera over losing his job of managing this very, 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 very small indoor field in a mall in South Texas. Yeah, it was a little...
That's unfortunate.
unfortunate for him, but it kind of made himself a laughing stock around here. I'm not gonna lie.
Really? So you
it was a little.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not
man.
gonna name drop him.
Yeah.
People want to do the research to figure out who it was. They can do it themselves. But
Yeah. So I mean,
Is what it is.
I was watching his videos when I first got into Airsoft, and I had seen him on Instagram at this field, and I wrote a comment like his old Instagram name. He was like, "You remember the old me?" And then me and him were talking for a little bit, and then when he had like tech questions and stuff, he was like reaching out, and it was like kind of cool to be talking to somebody that you used to watch, of who at the time his old channel where he did it with his buddy, their gun reviews were like, those are the videos you found when you went on YouTube and looked up an airsoft gun you wanted to buy. So like, it wasn't like an airsoft celebrity by any stretch, but like this was a bigger channel for what airsoft was at the time. So it was neat to be able to like talk with him and be like, dude, I watched your stuff, I like appreciated it, and
he had some interesting takes on airsoft and especially the tech side of airsoft for sure. I think that's kind of what threw me off from him. He was very, in my experience, very hard-headed and pretty dead set in his opinions about some very weird airsoft systems, and like he had a very, very big fondness for AEPs over gas blowback pistols. Not sure why. Just was a huge fan of them and really thought they were better than gas blowbacks, truly. It was very interesting. That was just one to name a few. But
yeah. So at any rate, all right, you can't go full auto with that in many places. I know Zulu did an event recently where they did. I forgot. I think it was either Crossroads. I think it was Crossroads, and they did an SMG class for that event, and the few guys that had SMG shooting under a certain joule limit going full auto were having a really good time.
I was going to say, I'm sure they loved it.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else did.
No, honestly, it wasn't a problem. Like, I was playing, and I mean, the guns shoot soft, and there were so few people actually going full auto. It wasn't, and it was like outdoor and very open.
Okay.
It was full field.
Gotcha.
It wasn't like an indoor situation.
I was going to say, because around here, even at smaller milsims around here, there's enough buildings that if you got into a building with someone and you're expecting them to be semi-auto, just hearing like 25, 30 RPS full auto, whether it's 1 joule or not, it's going to piss you off before you even know what the gun is.
Yeah.
Just getting hit by full auto in a building when you're at a milsim and you're expecting everyone to be semi because you did not read the rules to realize that there was an SMG class, that pisses people off, and I think that's why a lot of fields down here don't do it.
Yeah, it's a shame because not everybody reads the rules, and like not reading the rules is just as bad as not following the rules. Because
100%, yeah.
when you're playing a game and there's rules, the moment somebody feels, whether if it's justified and true or not, once they feel like somebody else is not playing the game by the rules, they no longer want to participate in the game with that person. Like they don't want to play the game. They're just mentally like they're out. There's no enthusiasm for it anymore. If somebody's breaking the rules, then it's probably a fair assessment. I don't want to play a game where this person is allowed to get away with breaking the rules. But people that have the assumption that somebody's breaking the rules because they didn't know the rules, it's just as bad because in their minds, they're convinced that the rule was broken. So the response it's going to have on their emotions and their behavior is going to be the same as if somebody actually broke the rules and they were accurately processing that, So people need to read the rules, but like at Crossroads, it went well. And it's for that same reason you said that's why Zulu doesn't do full auto. Like LMGs have to have a feed tray and a box mag in order to go full auto. Like there's no RPKs or M27s.
I like that distinction.
Going
I like
full
that
auto
distinction.
here anymore. Yeah,
has to have a feed tray.
Yeah,
I like that. I think that's the first time I've heard a rule set explicitly say that.
Because rentals have M4s, and they see a guy with an M27. It just looks like an M4. That person's going full auto. This new person is just, and
exactly.
And some people and also people took their M27 and they put a 416 upper on it, but because the receiver said M27, they were like, it's an M27, and they ruined the fun for everybody. I was personally upset because my Galil over there, that's the carry handle variant, the squad automatic weapon, or the automatic rifleman role. And I had a drum mag for that, and I was like, I can go full auto with it, and that didn't last. Now I can't go full auto with it.
That's always the side I've been on. I've always told people it depends more on just what it looks like. If it looks like a standard AK or a standard M4, it's not an LMG. In the eyes of the sport, it should not be considered an LMG. And I know this might be hurting some people's feelings or whatnot if they personally run RPKs. Don't get me wrong, love the RPK. It's a great gun. It works really well. The only issue is the drum mags. Fuck those fucking drum mags. I've seen too many of them snap in half. Anyways, but that's the biggest thing that I've always had a problem with. Is fields are just like, they just have the arbitrary, well, it has to be a real light machine gun. It has to be considered a real squad automatic weapon. Well, then you have this, what is effectively an M4 with a long-ass barrel and a 60-round mag or a drum mag, or sometimes even just standard Stanag mags, going full auto. That looks no fucking different than the dude next to him with a 416 going semi. It doesn't make sense to any other person from a distance, not even a new player. You're talking 150 feet between you and them, and all you can see is the profile of the gun looking at you. That looks like an M4. Why the fuck is he in full auto? And that immediately just starts a problem.
Yeah, and and there's a drawback to having. I mean, the moment you implement the feed tray rule, now we're actually talking about LMG replicas that are heavy.
Yes.
And now there's some disadvantage to having all that ammo and the ability to go full auto. And now it forces players to, if you want to use this class, this soldier, effectively, you have to do squad tactics. This person actually has to do, and naturally it'll fall into place if they want to win. If they want to do well.
Oh, absolutely.
Their saw gunner has to do saw gunner things, and there's everything that entails.
Yeah,
and
I'm not gonna lie. I play devil's advocate when it comes to the weight thing. I say the weight shouldn't really matter because I get it, but my devil's advocate is like, what about little Timmy whose mom bought him a featherweight 249? Well, that doesn't weigh a lot, but it's got a drum mag. It is an LMG. It has a feed tray.
Yeah,
but it's light as shit.
So like over here it's feed tray and box mag. So Crytek, Shrike, the Double Eagle or the Golden Eagle ones, now the JG and the GNG Shrike systems, that's okay. It's a feed tray and it has to have a box mag.
Feed tray, got a box mag?
Yeah.
Okay, you're good.
But we and Viking, we are in the realm of trying to take these LMGs and make them lighter. So I'll tell you about some things.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll tell you about something I'm working on with the featherweight in conjunction with Viking. So I'm gonna do this to my personal featherweight first and see what comes of it. So Viking's making a whole very similar to the Stoner 63 ones that they're doing. I asked them if they
This
could
may have to be cut out. This may need to be cut out of the podcast.
I will ask them before I
This part may need to get cut out.
When we're editing this, I'll ask them, and if they say to cut it out, this whole section will be silent.
It'll need to be cut out. Because I do talk to them on a pretty regular basis.
Fuck. They did, they told me that in confidence, and I just assumed it was okay. I also am just talking to you, but we are recording, and oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. So
no worries.
My bad. We'll edit that out. Anyway, Viking's gonna make a part for me that's custom, a custom one from the one that they're making, to make my featherweight a little bit, and I'll just leave it at that.
A
little bit more meta. Might add a different letter to the acronym that is its name. Maybe like maybe a lowercase letter at the end of its acronym.
Well, and to be fair, I think this is all keeping in the nature of the sport to customize these guns and build them out and have fun with them and make them work for you and your playstyle. I think that's the most important thing in building guns, because I know we love to shit on it's a Mayo M4. He's got a replica EOTech, a replica PEC 15. It's a black M4 with a crane stock on it, and it's got a Block 2 rail on it. Ooh, look at this guy. But ultimately, do what you want with your gun.
Yeah.
Let other people do what they want with their guns, and everyone will have a fine and dandy fun time in this sport. I really do think that's an important part of the sport, because I've had a lot of people be like, bastardize that Stoner and chop barrel off, swap the stock to a SIG stock. It's basically an M4 at this point, especially when they see the M4 adapter on it. And I have to tell them, I wasn't trying to reinvent the M4.
Yeah.
I was just making it compatible with other mags that already exist to make you be able to use it in more situations so it's more adaptable.
Yeah.
Because for those who don't know, so one of the main groups of parts that I make for the Stoner is converting the hop-up to run a standard Max M4 hop-up, and then feeding to the bottom instead of the original top-fed design. And then I have all three. I have an M4 mag adapter to use standard M4 mags on the Stoner. I have the 249 adapter to use any 249 dovetail mags on the Stoner. And then I also have the original, I have a redesigned cage system for the original mag that's a little bit more low profile, looks a little bit cooler in my opinion, a little bit different aesthetic to it, and again feeds to the max system. And when you combine that with a chop stock, and then I'm putting a chop barrel, and then I'm putting a SIG stock on it, and I'm putting an EOTech on it, and a light, and a laser, and then people look at it and they're like, "This is basically just a glorified M4."
Well, when you follow the rabbit hole, it just turns into you're working around the rules that exist to suppress.
Oh, absolutely.
So okay, it has to have a feed tray. All right, we're gonna put a shorter barrel on it. We're gonna make it run M4 mags or a really small box mag. Okay, feed tray, it only goes full auto. You can't clear rooms with full auto. There's a 50-foot med. All right, has to be semi-auto to clear rooms. All right, we're gonna put a selector switch. So that's one of the things I'm doing to the featherweight. We're making a selector switch for it.
Yeah.
So still the push button safety. It's just a 2-position selector, but I want it to be able to go semi-auto so that I can go and clear a room. And SIG stock all the way. There's gonna be an adapter for it, and I also want to see what it's like to take an M4 grip and attach it to it, and what type of mods I have to do to get it on the featherweight, and if it's gross, and if it's not totally gross, and if there's a way to cut it, then I'm gonna make a jig that allows you to just cut it clean every time, or something. So I'm basically just taking the featherweight and making it small, light. I'm part of the problem, and I'm not doing it because I wanted to make it like the SIG stock and putting an M4 grip on it and a selector switch and a short barrel. It's not to make it more compatible with aftermarket parts. It's no, I want to make the gun fucking cursed. I want to make it disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want you want everyone to look at that and be like, what the fuck? And then you want them to look at it like that, but you want them on the receiving end to feel like, I can't do anything. He's hitting me from 280 feet away in full auto, and he's outranging me, and it's hitting me accurately, and he's got a box mag with 2,500 rounds in it. What the fuck am I supposed to do here?
Yeah.
Like, that's no offense to people who are like, well, you shouldn't want to, make other people have a bad day, but like, we're playing a game that is a sport, and it should be, at least at larger events, there is some level of competitiveness to it. My goal at the end of the day is to make sure you have a bad day. Not in terms of having fun, but in terms of playing the game and completing objectives and getting kills. My goal is to make you have a bad day.
Yeah.
Every time I go out.
Especially to do the objective. For me, it's like, I really like to play the objective, And if that means that my saw with an F2 in it is shooting 4 O's so that I can do saw gunner things from really far away, so be it. It's the airsoft arms race.
Absolutely.
The technology has to compete, and people have to tune their guns up if they want to. Because, okay, there's the guys with the rentals, and it becomes, very unfair. But
yeah,
when everybody has equipment that shoots farther and more accurate, you're now taking airsoft, which started out, the sport started out as a toyish game, and now you're making it more milsim by extending those ranges, and by making the threat and capability of the airsoft gun, as close to asshole clenching as a real gun as you can, within still keeping it non-lethal in the game. That's why Gel Blaster sucks. It's a step in the wrong direction. The guns don't shoot as far accurate. So it's now you're really just playing with Nerf guns at this point. And if all the airsoft guns shoot really far, now it's not this dinky thing that the SF guys are going to look at and be like, oh, it's airsoft. They might actually think of adopting airsoft more for training, and that's your printed part. So that's done.
Yep. So this part just came off the bed from when I started it 30 minutes ago.
How do I know that's not the one you just showed me earlier? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to prove, but here's two.
You have a whole bucket.
But I do have a lot.
What's the temperature on it?
Don't get me started. It is warm. It is warm. Okay. I will say.
Can you prove that? Can you prove that it's warm?
Warm in the hand. I can prove that it still has some strings on it that y'all probably can or cannot see.
I'm just messing with
just some
you.
tiny little wisps, but ultimately, God, this lighting is terrible, and I cannot get
that whole thing
that's
printed.
about as good as I can get it.
That whole thing printed in 30 minutes.
Yeah,
and that's 100% infill.
Damn near. It's 5 walls, so there's barely anywhere on this part that would ever get actual infill pattern because it's 5 walls.
Yeah,
which.
That's thick.
Is ultimately, it's the key to strong parts. If you want strong parts, you add more walls. Infill is not there to make the part strong. Infill is to provide density and support when using thin walls and for printing large parts that might have an overhung surface at the top that needs to be supported in the middle. That's why you would use an infill.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the strength is coming from your layer adhesion and your wall count, because that wall is what's actually making the solid surface on the outside that is 99% of your load-bearing surface. It's not, the infill is not actually doing the work, because all the infill is a single line going across.
Yeah.
Infill is just there to support the shape of the part while it is printing and to provide some structure after printing. Otherwise, the strength is in the walls and your layer adhesion and your height. So all my parts are printed at 0.16 layer height. So this is lower than standard layer height. So that's why the lines on this are very hard to see.
Yeah.
That's why the part looks so smooth, so crisp. Does not look like a 3D printed part. You would think this is just a shiny ABS part from even arm's width away. You wouldn't even consider that that's a 3D printed part. Especially if you saw it on someone's helmet, painted over or something.
Yeah.
Or sanded to kind of be matte to match kind of the finish on the helmet if it's just a black helmet. So, I mean, you can do a lot, and it's really about your knowledge and your competency in the skills that you need to fine tune the craft.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Um, so that part's for cameras. I know there was another part you were prototyping out for helmet-mounted cameras. Is that a yay or nay? I mean, you posted about it.
I have posted about it. I'll touch up on that.
We never did order one, and to be honest with you, when I showed it to our camera producer guy for Zulu, he looked at me and he was just like, "Why don't you just make some for us?" And I was like, "I can't do that." Like, I mean, like we just never pursued it, you know. Like he has some glasses that have that camera perspective that your product was going for, but honestly, a reason why I didn't buy it is because I'm fucking lazy, and I was like, oh, I have to take my shroud off my helmet. I was like, I have to remove my shroud and then put it back on. I was like, I was like, that's a tomorrow thing.
So I sadly don't have any of the parts nearby me. That project's kind of getting canned. Not completely. I may come back to it.
You want to talk about it?
Nothing
a little bit?
Yeah, I'll talk about it on here. That way people know, because I did post quite a bit about it and like the current pricing and how it was going to be assembled and what it looked like and video footage of it, and it's all on my social media and you can find it all. And I've been meaning to make a post about this, honestly. The main problem was nothing that I did. The main issue is the electronics that it's using. I was having too many failures of the camera to even turn on, record, stay on, hold charge, reliably record, not throw error beeps and error flashes at me whenever I tried to turn it on. I was just having way too many issues with the camera that it used itself that I was at like kind of my wit's end with it.
We didn't say yet what it was, what the name of it is.
So
why? So talk about that, because whoever's watching right now doesn't know yet, because we know what we're talking about. But
so it was designated the HMCR, which stands for Helmet Mounted Combat Recorder. The whole concept was it was mounted through the night vision shroud, both behind it on the inside of your helmet, underneath your pads, and in front of the helmet underneath the shroud, so it used the same mounting holes and mounted with the same exact screws that are already on your helmet. The camera system was based, which arguably is a great camera. It works, but for whatever reason, in using some of the hardware that I have to use to separate the two main components of the camera, both the recorder and the lens, there's something going on there that is causing the camera to fail, to short, to throw error codes, and honestly, it's becoming too much of a hassle. I would get to events and like be, oh dude, I got it working, tested it before I came, it's good to go. Game starts, turn it on. I get 2 minutes of recording and then it shuts off and won't turn on again. That's happened too many times to the point where I'm just tired of dealing with it. I'm about to just buy my own camera and just deal with it, because it was way too much hassle. It was nothing on my side. The design was ready. The design was ready to go. The design was ready to be printing and selling. And it was just an unfortunate turn of events where I was finding out the hardware that it was using for the camera system itself was just failing. It was just having too many problems that I couldn't reliably put this product out there and trust that people are going to spend their money to set it up, only to have a camera that just doesn't work half the time. And frankly, I'm not okay with that, and I don't think that's acceptable or should be accepted by any of my customers as a final product. I'm a big supporter of, like, I make sure shit is 100% ready before it ships. And this isn't to like point shade at any other companies that are out there in any form of market, but everyone knows of a company or in whatever industry that probably put a part out without thoroughly testing it and there was issues.
Yeah.
This happens in every industry. happens in firearms, it happens in automotive, it happens everywhere. And I am just not a huge fan of that. And I don't think that we should. And it's huge in airsoft. I mean, airsoft retailers do this all the time. Manufacturers do this all the time in airsoft. The Desert Tech MDR that came out, total fucking flop.
Yo,
that gun was insanely expensive.
They released kits to replace it, or I think if you bought the gun, you're getting the kit for free, and it's a bunch of drop-in replacements for things that are failed in it.
But that just shouldn't have happened.
Right.
That gun was in development for how long?
They released it too soon.
And you're telling me you couldn't catch those few issues that it was having that were major flaws. And this could be said for any gun, the SEMA Platinums that everyone so dearly loves. The electronics are so fucking flimsy. Like, everything else in that gun is great.
Well, that's China. That's not like...
Exactly.
I mean,
yes.
look, China
China
is what China does.
But would it have hurt them to spend a little bit more money to get a slightly nicer FCU made with slightly nicer switches that weren't as cheap?
Yeah.
Would it have taken that much testing to figure out that switch breaks very easily?
It's just not how Chinese companies operate.
Absolutely.
Like that coming from China.
I'm not saying that they need to change it.
Yeah, that coming from China does not surprise me. But VFC internals from Taiwan, being a really old school reputable company, that is annoying. Ares,
yes.
I think Ares is also Taiwan. Are they? I don't know if they're China. But
Ares guns typically don't like being HPA'd, so I don't touch them.
Ares guns don't like being stock. They don't like existing. They suck. But like what other like LCT, another Taiwanese company. I was doing this RPD and I was posting stuff on it, man. These guns are like they're not done. Like some of them are just not done. And they're rushing it, and
they're in a hurry to make money, is what it is, and it's disappointing because we as consumers in this hobby should not be settling for that. We should not be buying these guns that immediately need hundreds of dollars of replacement parts to work right. It shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah,
it just shouldn't. And so ultimately, this is getting back to my point of just like, I do not feel comfortable releasing anything unless it is 100% ready to go. And I can gladly say that I have had maybe a handful of parts actually get reported to be broken, warped, shrunk. I haven't had any come to me non-functional. I've had some be ruined due to improper installation. I've had warping and heat and humidity or being left in a car. I've had one part break because someone fell on their gun the first time they took it out to play after getting their parts. Completely snapped apart, which I think we can all agree is well within reasonable force limits to break.
Yo, VFC receivers and KWA receivers break when you fall on them.
All the time.
And they're metal.
All the time. So this 3D printed part snapping when you fall on it should not be a surprise to anyone. And this was a stock adapter on a stoner. That's a fairly small part. That is not like I have a couple here.
Oh, and I'm sure when that happens, you just cover it. You just replace it.
This is a stock adapter.
Yeah.
These are very cheap. I sell these for like $25-$30. And this is before I have the Picatinny rail installed. This is a Picatinny rail one. It uses an aftermarket injection molded Picatinny rail that gets mounted to this with bolts and everything like that. So it's not actually 3D printed on. The part you're mounting the stock to clamp on with is actually an ABS molded part.
Yeah. I have to do that.
So it's very strong.
I have to do that with the featherweight pick stock adapters I made because all the 3D printed rails, they just like on the Picatinny part they crack. So,
and I mean, when he fell on this, when he showed me what was left of it, and there wasn't a lot. It was a catastrophic, just complete ripped the bolts out of the plastic, ripped the whole stock adapter in half. Both the bolts came out completely. The whole thing looked like just a bird's nest of plastic material, just shredded plastic material.
Yeah.
This is kind of a big dude, not just in weight, but also in height. This was a fairly big dude. I do believe he's above average male height and probably about average weight for his size, for his height.
Yeah.
So this was not a small guy falling on a completely metal part. This was a very large dude falling on a 3D printed part. And I think that's the only part I've had come back to me broken.
Yeah.
So, and I've done like 6,000 in sales in the past 9 months.
Nice. That's really good.
So, there is a lot of my parts out there at this point.
Do you
and
think
I have a very low return or warranty rate?
Do you think that? I mean, do you have a partnership? I'm gonna ask about Admin Airsoft. Do you think him, like, 'cause his page is pretty popular. He's using your parts, and I don't see a post come for him. I feel like where you're not tagged in it. Do you think he's helped bring that business to you, or do you think that there's just a raw demand for just upgrading these stoners and getting these parts for it? Like, how many people own Stoner 63s?
Not a lot, because they are technically discontinued. They do still make them, and they do still distribute them, but they are limited per year in the quantity that they actually ship out to retailers.
Wow.
So the amount that come in new per year is limited by the manufacturer. And on top of that, they're an expensive gun to begin with, especially because of price hikes recently, just due to increased international shipping costs for the retailer side of things. I think Amped had the base model at like $750. I bought mine for like $620 after tax before COVID.
Yeah.
So there's definitely been some price hikes recently, both due to demand and increased cost of shipping, but ultimately, not a lot of people had them. There's enough out there. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely maybe like 1,000 or 2,000 out there, but that is significantly lower than any other manufacturer's rates for a gun.
Yeah.
So, but to go back to your main point, or main question there. Admin and me do have a partnership. I do have a partnership code with him. So if you follow Admin Airsoft, do use his code. It not directly supports him, but does show your support for him and me. It tells me where you're coming from, who you're seeing me through, and it's very valuable information for the both of us.
What code? What are you talking about? Like a discount code?
So I'm not gonna. Yeah, it is a discount code. I'm not gonna get it out on this podcast. You got to go follow Admin Airsoft. Go shoot Admin Airsoft a follow. Go like his post. Go share his post if you want his code. All right, that's the least I can do for him, for both supporting me and me supporting him in that regard. So
yeah.
If you want that code, it's 15% off code. Unlimited uses, entire cart, no restrictions. Doesn't matter what you buy, doesn't matter how much you buy, doesn't matter how many times you use it. It's unlimited. 15% off across your entire cart. Nothing is exempt. But he's definitely played a large role in that. The amount of content he puts out, just sheer content alone, and just being a great creator in the fact that he is really on top of tagging the people that deserve to be tagged for their content and for their work that they put in. And so I do owe him a lot of respect, and I wrote him a pretty long, heartfelt text one day just about, like, just from the time that I had sent him his gun back with all my parts to then I had like a 60% sales increase in like 2 months.
Yeah.
Just on like a few posts. So it was a noticeable increase from him for sure, but I think that's just due to sheer eyes on the parts. I don't think that's necessarily due to he's just a golden sales boy. He takes great photos, and he's super transparent with everything. So that's kind of why I add. He doesn't get kickback from that code. He does not get kickback from recommending you to go use my parts. He recommends me because I put out good stuff, and he trusts me to put out good things. And I do right by him by putting out good things. He sends me people, and they trust me with their money and their time and with their property, whether I'm working on their gun or sending them parts to put in their gun. The least that I can do is make sure I'm providing quality parts to all those people who took that chance and trusted him and myself, and do right by him and the content that he puts out about covering me as a company. And so I really cannot thank him enough. He's a great dude. I really love that guy. I do miss him moving from Texas. We were not super close when he was here. We knew of each other, and we said hi at the field, talked a little bit at the field, but this was a little bit before Scum Customs.
Yeah.
And that's why he initially followed me and found out about Scum Customs as it was getting off on the ground. And that's when me and him really started increasing our communication, our relationship in that regard. So, yeah, man, I really can't say enough about him, honestly.
That was a beautiful story.
He's a great dude.
That was good, man.
I know that's probably a long tangent on that one question, but
so
he's really great, dude.
What you meant, there's something I should have addressed very early on in this discussion, because when you said you started Scum Customs, all right?
Ah, yes.
Now, my question is, where did the name Scum Customs come from? Are you scummy? Is that what it is? Where did this name come from?
So, when I was getting back into Airsoft, I was wearing tan. Let's just start with that. I was wearing tan. And I joined a team here in Houston that went to MilSims. This was not like some competitive team. This was just a good group of guys that ran under one name. We ran together at events, ran comms at events, and we rolled as a group. We all went the same team. We camped out at these events, hung around a fire all night, just that type of team. This is not a competitive team. This was just a hang out with the boys, have a good weekend kind of team. But they were religiously green team cost players, and I was wearing tan when they met me. So I very quickly started getting called Tan Scum, even when I was on the team initially, early on, after playing with them a few times without being on the team and hanging out with them. Once I was formally on the team, I was lovingly referred to as Tan Scum. And it kind of just stuck. The more I used Scum, the more I was just like, I just went with it. It worked. I understood where they were coming from, and that's where the best call signs come from. Is not you creating your cringy ass username call sign, but from them legitimately, from teammates and friends, legitimately giving you a call sign that's a nickname from some funny or just moment in your Airsoft or whatever else career. I mean, this is how call signs work in any field.
You're getting roasted. Like, the call sign has to.
Yeah, it's basically
it's
a loving roast.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a loving roast that you should almost pick up as a term of endearment over time. Yeah. It starts as a joke and almost a roast as to something you did or something cool you did, but eventually becomes a form of endearment that they call you that because they know you from that event, and that's what they attribute with you.
And dude, it's a cool name, and I know it's like you obviously chose to name your company that, so it's not like something other people have. And I'm talking from the perspective of I'm first hearing about you, Scum Customs. Smiggy, who I'm friends with, he's local here to Zulu. I see him like every weekend. He refers to you as Scum. Now, when you hear how that sounds, he's like, "Oh yeah, Scum is." And I asked him one day, I was just like, "Why does everybody call him Scum?" And he kind of like chuckled a little bit and nodded his head and like didn't answer the question, and like walked away.
Well, yeah, he doesn't know.
Yeah,
he doesn't know the story.
And he's just like he just, and then he walked away. So I was just like confused.
That's funny. That was him
like,
getting out of the question. I just want you to know that.
Yeah.
I want you to bring this up to him, being like, "You didn't know why they called him Scum. You just didn't want to answer the question."
Yeah. Well, I don't even think he wasn't even trying to make it look like he knew the answer and just wasn't telling me. Yeah. He just like whatever. Like he just so I heard it and I was just like, that's kind of like, well, okay, so you named the company Scum, so it's not like everybody's shitting on you.
Oh god, no.
But I
take it in stride.
But maybe I was like, but I didn't like know you at all. I was like, maybe he's just kind of scummy and he's like just embracing it. And I was just like,
what is it? Define what you think that would mean if I was just kind of scummy. What would that
like
in what regards?
Like a used car salesman, like So
I don't think this business would go very far if that was the case.
So I was just like wondering like where do you get the name? Because I think it's a really cool, edgy name, kind of like Dirty Civilian. You know what I mean? Like it's like Scum Customs.
The whole customs part's a little cringy. I wish I had done something a little different.
Airsoft Studios.
Yeah.
This is hardly a studio.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is I got bigger plans for the business eventually, and later on in
Yeah.
life that the name's got to go eventually. But
Yeah.
for now, it's sticking.
Scum is a cool like household edgy. Not household. It's a cool like edgy with the boys like type of name. But then if you want a bigger company, be a household name. You can't be like. You got to be like Blippy or, Blippy Coco Melon.
Oh man, a nice little tie back there.
Yeah. So
yeah, no, I got some plans. The business, you touched on it in the beginning what I'm going to school for. So I'm in trade school. I'm not necessarily in a engineering. It has to do with engineering, and what I do is definitely engineering on the side with this business. I design all my own parts. I taught myself Fusion 360. I do all my own AutoCAD work. I do not sell files. I sell parts. So technically, I'm an engineer. I'm not a designer. I designed that part. I tested that part. I produced that part, and I sold that part. I'm the designer. I'm the engineer. I'm the quality assurance guy. I am the laborer. I'm the sales guy. I'm the owner. I'm everything all in one. I do it all. And not to say that I do them all amazingly. There's definitely there's days people message me about things and I cannot be bothered. I feel so bad. I cannot be bothered, and I'm trying to answer their question, but maybe it's just a question that it's like, you're obviously new to this. You don't know what I'm referring to, and it's requiring a lot more explanation that I would really like to go into right now, and it's starting to frustrate me. Kind of things. And I'm totally at fault for that kind of stuff. I do try and be super nice with everyone I talk to, and just total like I'm in terms of the business and my parts, I'm an open book. I'll tell you what I think my strong suits are, and I'll tell you what I think my weak suits are. I'll tell you if a part, like, hey, I didn't test that part a lot. That's why it's not on the website. There's something I do sell that I produced, and I posted about it, but it's not on the website. It's not on the website for a reason. It's because I didn't test it personally. I designed the part, I printed it, I assembled it, put it on the gun that it went on. After that, it left my hands. The people who are testing it, the guys who have those few parts that I have printed of that design. Yeah. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I'll occasionally get someone asking for it, but it's not something I advertise, because that's something I cannot put my guarantee into that part and tell you, yeah, it's a great part, super tested, it works. The max conversion kits, on the other hand, I've sold 30 to 40 of those kits, and between all of them, there's probably close to 1 million rounds through them at this point, if I had to guess. If anyone's done even half what I've put through my own kit, it's got to be close to 1 million rounds at this point. And I've not had a single one be like, hey man, this thing failed, or this thing's not working right. Not a single one.
That's what's up. I mean, yeah, you can definitely use your sales as a metric for knowing the success rate of your part. If you sold this many,
not just sales.
Well, you sell this many units, so this many are being used. You can only assume, and how many on that particular item have they said it broke, or they had a complaint, or they had a return, and then you just take a percentage. Yeah. It's just a percentage.
What is the ratio? What is the ratio to how many sold to how many have had issues? Yeah. Whether it's broken, doesn't work right, or the customer simply just couldn't install it properly or couldn't get it to work in their system. Yeah. When you combine any that have had problems and take that and put it into a ratio of how many have sold, that ratio is, obviously you want to be under 10%. Yeah. Under. At the maximum. I would feel bad if I had 10% of my shit coming back to me. That's an issue. Yeah.
Like, if you're making, like, airplane parts, you have to do all of that testing prior. You can't but with airsoft parts and 3D printed parts, like, I feel like, I mean, it's unfortunate when something does fail. But if you look at airsoft, like the industry as a whole, there's a lot of renowned parts that fail. Like, I have PTS grips that are bad right now. There was a bad batch recently, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, it's so normal for Airsoft.
Gears.
Yeah.
Buckings.
And
Mags. Mags are not cheap.
it's on gears. You know, those gears, they're from China. If they break, I'm not getting a free replacement. That's pissed.
No.
It's pissed down the drain. But a 3D printed part that's pricey, custom made from a guy in the U.S., if it breaks and you get a free replacement, what more can you do? You know, it's like you can kind of get away with guinea pigging with your customers a little bit. Let them, because you can only field test it so much too, unless you really invest in it. But people live in different climates. People play different events. They're different physical builds, so their gun's going to undergo more things than you can possibly just afford to put the product through before you decide to put it on the shelf. Put it on the shelf. It's going to work for most people, and just honor it should it fail. And then take the failure and improve it. And that's what you're doing, and I don't think there's any problem with that. I mean, that's what I do with the feed blocks, you know?
No, and my warranty system is if you can send me a picture of a broken or non-functional part, I will replace it.
Yeah.
Free of charge, no questions asked. I don't care how it broke. I don't care what you did to make it break. All I need is proof of it being broken and that it is not working.
People are going to hear that.
That's all I need.
They're gonna.
Well, no, because you got to prove that it's not working. I will not send you a replacement if it's even still probably working.
They're gonna find pictures. They're gonna find pictures of a broken unit, and they're gonna make a bunch of different emails, and they're gonna be sending the same picture, but like they're gonna put filters on it, make it look a little different.
Trust me, if I all of a sudden out of nowhere start getting a spam of people like, "Hey, this part broke," after this comes out, there's gonna be some other stipulations put into place. That's for sure.
Order number.
Yeah, you will need an order number. You will get one replacement per order number, basically.
But it broke in two places. Why don't I get two replacements?
Nope.
It broke here and here.
You get a whole new part.
Yeah.
But the only thing that
it's better than what most people get. So I'm sorry, go on.
The only thing that I am questionable on replacing is improper installation.
Yeah.
When there is improper installation, especially on some of the main parts that really require the most modification, which is the max conversion kit, which I have in covering the entire disassembly of the gun and installation of the kit from beginning to finish. If you manage to install that kit improperly and fuck it up, I'm sorry, I'm not replacing it. That's on you. I've done the time to make sure that all the information is out there into how to properly do it, if you're fucking it up, I can't in good faith replace it because of your stupidity. And that's nothing against my customers, but that's just, when you're buying this kit, you are understanding that it is a DIY kit. You have to do it yourself. There is drilling involved. There is alignment involved. There is disassembly and reassembly involved. And if you cannot manage to do that properly with an hour-long walkthrough video of me disassembling the entire gun, going through the theory of barrel setups and what you might want to put in your LMG, going through the theory of nozzle alignment and feeding and settings, and setting up the box mag to work with the kit, how to pilot drill the kit with the guide that's included. Not to mention, I do include a guide that it can only be inserted onto the gun in one way, so the hole cannot be drilled improperly whatsoever. So it's kind of like, if somehow you manage to circumvent all of those steps, that's on you. Ultimately, I'll cover anything else.
Has anybody come to you with something in that case that they only one? And how did that conversation go? I mean, you don't have to say who the person is, but
I mean, it was kind of one of those things where I just had to tell him, I was like, look, man, I sent you the link to the video. If you decided not to watch it and try to do it yourself and you screwed it up, that's on you. I'm not liable for you screwing up your gun because you didn't watch the 1 hour video that covered everything you needed to know. If you were even brand new to this gun, you just got this gun in the mail, you immediately ordered the parts, you haven't even disassembled it before, that video covered the entire disassembly of the gun to get to the point to install the kit, all the parts that go to the kit, like your hop up and how to install an HPA engine, and all the theory behind it with brief explanations of settings and nozzle alignment and air seal and hop up types and bucking types. I covered all of that in that 1 hour video, and yet somehow you still managed to screw this up. It's not on me. It's on you.
Yeah. The disclaimer is important. I mean, the bigger retail stores get that right. They're like, look, you're buying a part, tuning your gun is very blah, blah, blah. Only do this if you're good, or bring it to a professional. Yeah. I mean,
I pay someone else to do it.
I don't disagree with you. Like, it's not, I don't think you should be liable if somebody doesn't follow the instructions. Although I'll be honest, I've had somebody not install one of my feed blocks properly, because there's like the whole, I made my video and it's a little goofy, but like I show how to tap the threads.
Is this the one that I know of?
I don't know. Do you know of one?
Is this my buddy?
Oh,
he
yeah,
said
I think it is.
he messaged you.
I think it is. Yeah, I think we talked about this last time. Yeah, he just forced the screw in and cracked it. I think I did replace it for him. Either way.
Jonathan Berry, this is your official call out.
Yeah. Well, he was cool about it.
Yeah, he's a sweet dude.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, like, I had somebody message me today. This isn't related to the feed blocks, but he gave me the whole story. Hey, I was recommended to you by Amped. I got this gun. And everything he said was like red flag. You know, worked on 5 years ago. Worked on 5 years ago. Now it's not working right. Yeah, you know, and it's like, I just need a tune-up to make it shoot well again, have the accuracy be fixed, whatnot. He's like, what are your prices? So I told him my prices. He's like, oof. He's like, he basically said something along the lines of like, oof, that's really high. Good luck, you know. So it just happens, man. And then some people I've had a couple people be like, why would I spend this much money on a feed block when I can just 3D print it myself? Can you send me and he's like, can you send me the file?
Yeah.
I'm just like,
no.
We don't sell the file. But you're free to design it yourself if you want.
Yeah.
You know?
You're free to do all the intellectual work to design it yourself and go through all the testing yourself to get a finalized part and then print the final version to have a working part. Or you can pay me the $40 for this feed block that's ready to go and we'll ship out to you in the next 24 hours.
Yeah. And have warranty on it.
And have a warranty. Pick your poison.
Yeah. And most people just get it. I've heard so many great things about my feed block. I'm sure it must be really rewarding for you when somebody tells you, dude, I put the Max kit in my gun, and like they installed it properly. And they're like, I put it in, and it works phenomenally, dude. You made such a good product. Yeah. This is fantastic. That feels, I know it feels good. You know?
Yeah, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but there's been numerous of those, and they are awesome to get. I love hearing it. I love hearing from customers that they get their order, they install the parts, and they're like, dude, it shoots great. It's ripping 30 RPS off the box mag, no skipped shots, shooting 1.85 joules, super consistent. It's great. Thanks, man. Like, I love getting those.
Yeah.
Because that was the goal. But ultimately, man, I do think I have to wrap it up here. So do you have any more questions for me?
I was about to say the same thing, dude. I think we covered everything, like how you started, your name. We talked about some of the projects you're working on that I find particularly interesting. I just want to thank you again for taking your evening. I know we went a little bit longer than we anticipated. Just tell everybody watching right now really quick where they can find you, where you're selling your products, and if you have any dad advice you want to give anybody, go for it.
So where you can find me is Scum Customs LLC on Instagram, no spaces, all one word. Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right, man.
2-year-old in a diaper interrupting the podcast here.
It's all good, man. I've been there.
But yeah, at Scum Customs LLC on Instagram. My website, I'll let you link it because it's through Shopify, so the link and the name will not automatically pop up if you just search it in. You really do need the link to the website because it's one of Shopify's like long ass domain names and it's a pain in the ass. Mm-hmm. You can try looking it up, Scum Customs LLC or like Stoner Parts, but odds are you're just going to get a lot of other competitors that also make Stoner Parts if you search that up, because some of them are definitely better than me when it comes to the Google adverts and like getting up on the listings in that sense. So I'll let you link it in the podcast page here, but it's also linked on my Instagram if you follow me on Instagram. And then dad advice, man, not everyone has amazing childhood or amazing parents. And if you're one of those, you know who you are. Don't make the same mistakes. Be conscious. Do better. Break the cycle. And at the end of the day, you're friends and you're with each other till you die. They will outlive you. You are not just their parent, you're their best friend. As much as people want to say, you're not there to be your friend, you're there to raise them. You can do both. You can raise them and be their friend. Because I promise you, if you are not their friend, they will not want to be your child. And as soon as they have that independence, you will no longer have that relationship. So do right by them. Do the best that you can every day to do your job as a parent and as their best friend in life. And everything will come to you.
Righteous.
That's about all I got.
Righteous. That's the perfect place to end it, dude. Have a good night.
Awesome, man.
Get back to your family.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Too will do. I'm about to go love on my child.
All right, man.
See you, bro.
See ya.